So here is today's Christmas mug, vintage Starbucks 2010. So cheers and welcome to my November wrap up. Welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Katrina and I make bookish content here on this channel every week and then movie reviews here at the weekend. In the description box below you will find all of my social links, including my blog and my Goodreads, where I review most of the books that I read. I do try and keep on top of it, but I just had a look in my draft folder the other day and I was like, so we're not going to talk about that. In case you missed yesterday's December TBR, where I talk about plans for Vlogmas, I will leave it linked up above. And I am going to reference a few things that I mentioned in my mid-month November wrap-up. I was focusing on non-fiction books and Netgalley reads this November, since it is non-fiction November and Netgalley November. And I think it went pretty well. I think having a really strong focus for the month just was really beneficial to me. So as always, I will break down my reading into ebooks, physical books and audiobooks. Audiobooks being my biggest category as always. So if you are looking about audiobook recommendations, you have come to the right place. So one book that I was reading at the end of my mid-month wrap-up that I was part way through is The Little Shop of Hidden Treasures, Part 4, Christmas Wishes. Could it be more festive? If you are looking for a festive read or something to kind of slot into the busy month of December, I highly recommend this series. All 4 parts are out now, and the bind up of all 4 parts is out in paperback in January. So watch this space for me to talk about that one, because I do have a paperback winging its way to me. I did win a paperback copy of this one, but this series is set in York, and I did vlog about part 3 whilst in York, so I will leave that video linked up above in case you missed that. But this was just a great end to the series. I can't talk too much about it because if you haven't read parts 1, 2 and 3, there will be spoilers for those parts in this video, so not talking about those, but I have a video talking about part 3. And so yeah, highly recommend watching that. I will leave this linked below if you are interested in reading it as a 4-part series. Like I say, it's really great to slot into times when you don't have a lot of time for reading. I would normally have sat down and read it all in one, but because I've been so busy, it was nice to be able to pick up and read like half and then pick up and read the other half when I had another like 45 minutes to spare, because they take about an hour and a half to read in total, which is great. Another book that I talked about in my mid-month wrap-up, and I do have a whole video talking about this one, is On a Night Like This by Lindsey Kelk. So I will just direct you to that video linked up above. It's amazing. This is a gorgeous hardback. It's Lindsey Kelk's first hardback. I'm so excited by that, and it's gorgeous and shimmery. Highly recommend it for your festive giving if you're looking for a last minute Hanukkah present or a last minute Christmas present. This one, can't go wrong with it, and it's just beautifully sparkly, shiny, and check out that video for my full review. So that's it for ebooks, but again, there being 2 ebooks on my wrap up is more than normal, so we'll take it. And then physical books, even though I have got physical books in my hands to hold here, just to hold this one up again, most of them I ended up listening to on audiobooks, so there are no physical books in this category this month. So let's talk briefly about some physical books I have on audio that I read. I talked about the fact that I read Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given. This is the special small edition. I thought it was exclusive to Waterstones, and Waterstones seemed to say that it's exclusive to them, but I have seen this one on Amazon as well, so I don't know, it may or may not be exclusive, but I like this edition. This will be a keeper for my fabulous feminist bookshelf when I get my bookshelves back again. And I talked about this one in my mid-month wrap-up, but the audio was delightfully short. I read 1/2 on the commute to work and 1/2 on the commute back, so that worked out quite well. One that I didn't talk about in my mid-month wrap-up was How to Save a Life by Lynette Rice. This is the inside story of Grey's Anatomy. Now, this one was sent to me for review, and so I will be writing a full review on my blog. It hasn't gone up yet because this was one of the last books I finished in the month of November. But the physical book itself does have pictures, and so I will be passing this on to a friend. Because yes, it does have some wonderful pictures in here. Now, the interesting thing about this one is the fact that a lot of it, I don't know if you can see here, a lot of it is written in sort of interview form. And so that should work really well as an audiobook, but because it's just narrated by one person, it can get confusing who's talking. So sometimes if, for example, like me, you're listening to this on your commute, you can then get back in the car after work and not know who's talking because the narrator's not changed at all. I think this would have worked really well for a multiple person audiobook. What do I mean there? There's no words. A multiple narrator audiobook, a bit like Lincoln on the Bardo or Daisy Jones and the Six, so you know exactly who's talking about who. But I think that also at the same time would have been impossible because there are just so many people involved in this book. She talks to, you know, like showrunners, writers, producers, actors, extras, actors that have just been in 2 episodes, guest stars, but she does talk to most of the main actors, and she does reference Shonda Rhimes' book The Year of Yes, which I have read and I did love, and it did make me want to go back to the beginning and watch Grey's from the beginning, which I haven't even kind of like started on the new season because I can't remember if I watched any of the new season in America before I came here, or I've been trying to work out, I've not put too much time into it, I've been trying to work out if the new season that's on in the UK now is the season that's already been on in the US or not. It's very confusing when you leave a country and there are seasons running. I mean, what's going on with The Bold Type? I was in the middle of a season that apparently just doesn't even exist here, but yeah, it says new episodes on Netflix. I'm like, but I was on season 5. You've only got 4 seasons, which is a new episode. Anyway, I was partway through season 5 when I left. I just clearly shouldn't have left. But yes, overall, it was okay. It didn't teach me anything new. Well, it wasn't its job to teach me, but it didn't sort of tell me anything particularly new that I didn't know. But it did go over what is a hugely long-running series, sort of from the beginning up until the most recent episode that covers the most recent season that covers COVID. And so it was interesting in that fact. But yeah, I think it would have been better with multiple narrators, and I think maybe it's a better one to dip in and out of to read the actual book or the ebook so that you can kind of see who's talking when you're dipping in and out. But I do like the fact that it has pictures, and it does talk about like fan favorite episodes, this being one of them, and I liked that fact. But overall it was just okay. So if you are a Grey's Anatomy super fan, you won't learn anything new. But if you're a Grey's Anatomy like just getting into it, or like semi-fan, then you'll probably find some interesting facts in here. And then another one that I did not talk about in my mid-month wrap-up that is probably going to be on my top 10 non-fiction for the year, and specifically the audiobook, even though this physical copy of the book is so beautiful. So this is my definitely Waterston's exclusive edition of Windswept and Interesting by Billy Connolly. It has the sticker on that I should have taken off already. But this one is stunning because not only is it signed on the edges here, it's also got semi-spreads. If we can have the term spreads, we can have the term semi-spreads, can't we? And I've gone into this, how beautiful the end pages are and how beautiful like even the naked hardback is. In the book haul that I talked about that in. If you haven't seen that, I'll put it above, below, wherever I've got links left. But I so enjoyed listening to the audiobook of this one. One of the things I love about this book is how much he talks about his home city of Glasgow. I lived in Glasgow for 6 years and I'm back there all the time. I think since I've been back in the UK, I came back into the UK in July and I've been in Glasgow like at least 3 times already. I love the city, and I love the way he talks about the city, and he mentions specific streets and specific places and specific restaurants that he's been to, and I just love that. And one of the other things that I find very comforting about listening to this one is that he gives everyone a full name. So he just, whenever he's talking about anybody, they're never kind of shortened to just their first name. He always gives them their full name. And I like that. It's very funny. It's very honest. It's a bit kind of here, there and everywhere. The sort of short essays are grouped together into chapters, but then each essay is standalone in itself, and so it makes for perfect commute reading, but it also makes for perfect listening in a very comforting way when you're on the M1 and it's snowing quite heavily and you're a bit worried and Billy Connolly is there with you in the car. So this book is, might even make it onto one of my favourites of the year, but definitely my top 10 non-fiction of the year, and the audiobook specifically, so good. Just so good. Highly recommend. And I didn't talk about that one in my mid-month wrap-up. But I think possibly the rest that you're going to hear about, I'd already talked about in that mid-month wrap-up. So make sure, if you haven't already seen that video, that you go away and watch that for full discussions of these, because we have The Storyteller by Dave Grohl, non-fiction, memoir type of thing, read by the author. Loved this audiobook, talked about it in that video. We have The 12 Dates of Christmas by Lisa Dickinson, which was one of my Netgalley November reads, and this one is festive fiction, so if you're looking for something fun and festive to read now, definitely recommend this one. It is festive romance, and I talk about it in that video in more detail. Then we have Walking on Sunshine by Giovanna Fletcher, which was a little bit of a disappointment for me, and I tell you why in that video. And then we have Passing by Nella Larsen, which I have made a whole book versus movie talking about, and I talk about it in that video, as well as the November mid-month wrap-up. So you can go to either of those videos. I will leave that book versus movie linked in the end screen for you. And then we have a couple. Oh, I definitely talked about this one. Where the Deer and the Antelope Play by Nick Offerman. I talked about that one in my mid-month wrap-up. But we have a couple that I didn't talk about because I hadn't read them yet. I listened to Taste by Stanley Tucci, which again I found quite a comforting read. However, it made me want to cook only Italian food, and so our Tesco order this past week was just like more pasta and stuff to make bolognese, carbonara, this and this, and I must order burrata wherever I can in a restaurant. That's basically what's happened since reading this. I had no idea some of the things that Stanley Tucci had been through, like no idea. This was a real eye-opener for me, almost like the opposite of reading that Grey's Anatomy book. It is also just perfect length. I think it's like 6 and a bit hours, and I just really enjoyed the length of it. It was just the right amount of days of commute, and I just really enjoyed it, and it has recipes in, so whilst I enjoyed the audio, I imagine that the physical book of this one would be slightly better, because then you can actually follow the recipes. I'm not saying that for certain because I haven't seen the physical copy of it, but I really enjoyed the audio and I enjoyed Stanley Tucci reading to me, but I think that the physical book would be good because of the recipes. And then I also listened to House of Gucci by Sarah Gay Forden. I'm not going to talk about this one too much because I have a book versus movie video coming up for you, so make sure you are subscribed and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on that one. I will say my sort of overarching view of this non-fiction read was that it is so long. It's so long, so there's a little sneak peek of that book versus movie coming your way soon. But yes, stay tuned for that one. I will talk about the book more in that video. And then finally we have, where's it gone? I listened to this one says an e-short story, so it was an e-short audiobook. This is Off Season by Jennifer Weiner. I'm a huge Jennifer Weiner fan. I have a video talking about like just discovering her and reading her books for the first time kind of thing, and I'm in awe of her writing. I love her writing style. I find it very, very magnetic, and it just carries you along so nicely. So even her longer books are really engaging and keep you entertained the entire time. This one features a little bit more of a thrill, which her previous 2 summer releases do as well. But I would say that this one is darker still. I think the entire thing was like an hour and a half. So if you listen on double speed like me, it's one commute basically. We talk about things in length of commute now. But it was just delightful, and it has everything that you expect from Jennifer Weiner, but in a shortened, thrilling version of a story. A writer goes off on a writing retreat, and things happen. It was very exciting. But yeah, if you can, I just borrowed this one from my library. It just came up as a suggested read, and I was like, yes, please, I will have that. Thank you. And so yeah, it was just a little extra one that I snuck in there. Let me just check I've covered everything for you. Yes, I believe I have. So keep an eye out, make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell. I have Vlogmas videos coming your way. I have a movie review coming this weekend, and I have that House of Gucci, you heard it here first, book versus movie coming your way as well. It's a whole thing. So yeah, you're not going to want to miss out on those. Let me know in the comments what you read in November. Did you have any like non-fiction or Netgalley specific reading? Were you reading festive books? Were you just reading one particular genre? Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will be back with my next video for you very soon. So I will see you then. Thanks for watching.